You ever wake up one morning and realize your life's about to turn into the kind of story nobody believes? Yeah, that's how my Thursday started. Standing on my porch, coffee in hand, staring at a crowd of strangers pitching tents, building a bonfire, and stringing up tarps like my livestock barn was their own personal campground. I just about spit my coffee. Get off my property. This is my barn. Not a campground, I yelled. But the woman in the crisp white blazer, the one directing everyone like she was hosting a suburban bake sale, just waved me off and said, "This is unrestricted common land." Right then, I knew I was about to have the kind of day you tell your grandkids about. I wish I could say it was the weirdest thing that's ever happened on my farm, but I'd be lying. You want a visual? Imagine a mix of glamping and government survey with enough professional equipment to make NASA jealous, topographical maps, a geological scanner, and folks in fresh hiking boots who looked more likely to get blisters than build a campfire. It was almost funny, except this was my land and they had no business being there. The woman turned out her name was Karen Whitmore, HOA, president of Meadowbrook Heights, walked right up, stuck out her hand, and tried to tell me, all sweet-smiled and fake-friendly, we're exercising our right to access common land. I almost laughed. Ma'am, this isn't common land. This is my farm. I've got deeds, taxes, and more sweat equity than you've spent on all those manicures. But Karen just kept on reciting legal mumbo-jumbo about surveys from the 80s, waving a guy over with a folder full of paperwork. He looked too nervous to even hold straight. And the more she talked, the more I realized these people weren't lost campers. They were organized, too calm, and just a little too interested in my property lines. That's when it hit me like a gut punch, right where the old ache still sits from losing Emma, my daughter. 8 months gone. Every inch of this place is her, especially Bessie, her favorite Holstein, still waiting by the gate for her every morning. You know what I mean? I was already on edge, and now I had an HOA army setting up an outpost in my front yard. I tried reasoning. I really did. You folks need to pack up and leave, I said, keeping my voice as steady as Emma used to tell me. But Karen just narrowed her eyes and dropped the kind of threat only a lawyer would admire, questioning if my property documentation was up to date, hinting at complications. That's when I realized that this wasn't about a campout. They'd done their research and they wanted something on my land. As soon as I could, I called Agnes Murphy. She's lived next door for 40 years, seen more out here than most city folks see on TV. She didn't sound surprised either. Honey, I've been watching people with surveying gear poking around your place for months. Figured you'd hired them. Great. So they'd been watching me maybe for longer than I'd even known. But here's the kicker. Karen and her crew set up their tents right where my cattle and horses run out every single dawn. They had no idea what was coming. I barely slept that night, watching their campfire glow through the window, knowing tomorrow would either end the drama or make it 10 times worse. Let me back up a sec. Around here, 5:30 a.m. isn't just early, it's sacred. Emma and I started that routine, and even after she was gone, I kept it. That next morning, I walked out to the barn, Bessie already leading the herd 150 strong, just waiting for that gate. I pulled it open and stepped back. You ever see a four-legged tsunami? My cattle and horses thundered through the barn, heading straight for Karen's little HOA campout like they were late for breakfast in Vegas. The guy in the fancy boots was first to notice. He screamed, dropped his coffee, and took off running like his life depended on it. The rest followed, tense, collapsing gear, flying Karen herself, scrambling on top of her black SUV white blazer, now dirt-streaked hair, wild barking orders like a general losing the battle. Get it all on video. This is assault with livestock, she screamed as if my cows had a legal department. If you could have seen it, well, let's just say I haven't laughed that hard since the Browns last made the playoffs. But I didn't miss the real story. These folks might look like bumbling city slickers, but they moved with coordination, recording everything, documenting their disaster for whatever plan they'd brought with them. When the dust settled, Bessie knocked over their fancy gear, the maps were trampled, and the campground looked like a tornado hit it. Still, something in my gut told me this was more than bad camping. Agnes showed up right after, holding her phone with pictures she'd snapped over the last few months. Strangers' late-night meetings, Karen and men in business suits surveying gear in hand. But that's not all. She'd even recorded Karen speaking fluent Spanish on a call, barking orders about accelerating the timeline. Agnes isn't just a neighbor. Turns out she's a retired DEA agent. Yeah, that happened. Yeah, that. But first, Karen made her play on social media. By noon, there's a viral video painting me as the villain. Violent farmer attacks peaceful HOA members with cattle. It looked like an action movie, slow-mo, dramatic music, the whole 9 yards. Comments poured in. City folks calling me a lunatic. Farm folks saying, "Lady, what did you think would happen?" It was a war online, and Karen was winning until I fought back. I dug up the barn security footage, uploaded it with a caption, "Here's what really happened." They trespassed, ignored private property signs, and set up camp where the animals go every single morning. If you camp in front of a barn, you're going to meet its residents. Within hours, the tide started to turn. Farming groups shared my video, but I noticed something weird. Most of Karen's supporters online had generic profiles, no history stock photos. It was a fake outrage campaign. Tommy Hayes, a local blogger, reached out saying, "Ethan, I think this HOA is a front. Let's talk." Turns out Tommy's investigation uncovered that the HOA didn't legally exist. The money flowed through shell companies and the members had records for fraud, money laundering, you name it. He'd found evidence of similar schemes targeting farms all across the Midwest, each time legal intimidation, social media attacks, then buyout offers when the owners were desperate. The goal wasn't land, it was what was under the land. Agnes came in clutch. Again, she'd bugged. Karen had audio of her reporting to someone called Elf in Spanish, talking about the coalfield acquisition and eliminating resistance. Meanwhile, Tommy traced the money, linking it to shell companies connected to drug cartels and organized crime. Here's the twist. My own daughter Emma had researched the history of our farm and found geological surveys about limestone caves running underneath caves, perfect for storing things. Bootleggers used them in the 1920s, but apparently someone wanted them for something worse. In an old manila envelope, Emma had written, "Why did Mr. Marcus ask me about the caves last summer?" That name popped up in Karen's phone calls and the blueprints Agnes pulled out of her late husband's papers. Original plans for a federal project from 1987, showing a decommissioned underground facility designed for, let's say, strategic storage. Long story short, Karen's crew wasn't here to camp, wasn't here for property. They were prepping to reactivate the largest underground drug manufacturing site in state history, using the HOA as a smokescreen to dig up the sealed entrances and get to work. When federal agents showed up at my door, I thought I was finished. Turns out Karen had planted evidence, staged photos, and doctored videos accusing me of running a drug ring from my own barn. For 24 hours, I sat in a concrete cell while my life burned down online and on the news. But you can't fake everything, not with Agnes and Tommy on your side. Security footage, time-stamped and authenticated, showed Karen sneaking into my barn at 3 a.m. with her henchmen and planting the drugs right where the FBI later discovered them. Agnes revealed her DEA credentials, laid out the entire network, and the case against me collapsed like a house of cards. The FBI flipped, and suddenly Karen wasn't just in trouble, she was about to face the full weight of federal justice. The real showdown came 72 hours later at dawn. I set up a live stream, released the cattle and horses, like always, only this time. Their stampede ran straight through Karen's illegal excavation, flattening million-dollar equipment, scattering her workers, and right as the chaos peaked, the FBI swept in from every direction. Karen just stood there, watching her empire crumble, whispering, "Marcus, I failed you." Even the crooked councilman tried to run, only to get chased into the pond by Thunder, my quarter horse, while his briefcase of cash floated away. Cinematic, right? The scope was staggering. Karen's network ran across 12 states built on fake HOAs and dirty money with plans to poison the country from beneath my farm. Her final confession, played for all to hear, revealed the tragic heart of it, a mother driven mad by the promise of leaving a legacy for her son, blind to the wreckage she caused. Justice hit hard. The feds swept up the whole network, busted the fake HOA, seized the properties, and freed families from years of harassment. I got compensation enough to start a drug awareness center in Emma's name and a new group to help farmers fight back. Rick Stone got promoted to federal agent. Tommy Hayes won awards, but for me it was about keeping Emma's memory alive, about knowing this farm stood for something good after all. So here's my question for you. Have you ever had to stand your ground when the world stacked the odds against you? How do you honor someone you've lost? Let me know in the comments. And if you believe that ordinary folks can still fight back against the worst the world throws at them, share this story. Because sometimes standing up isn't just about your land, it's about your legacy.